If you can't finish anything lately, I'm not going to hand you another productivity hack or tell you to break it into smaller tasks. You've heard that before. You've probably done it before. But let's be honest, this isn't about your to-do list. This is about what's underneath it. Because here's the truth no one tells you. Starting is a dopamine hit. Finishing is a confrontation. When you start something, it feels exciting, hopeful. You're chasing a version of yourself that's more capable, more focused, more in control. But when it's time to finish, that's when it gets real. That's when the fear creeps in. Because finishing something means facing a result, and once there's a result, you have to own it. Good or bad, no more fantasy, no more, maybe I would have crushed it if I actually tried. You'll know. And for a lot of people, knowing is scarier than failing. So they stay in the almost done zone, where they never really risk anything, but also never move forward. And if that hit a nerve, good. That's where we go next. Sometimes, the reason you don't finish is because you've tied your self-worth to performance so tightly that finishing something imperfect feels like failure. You'd rather leave it incomplete than risk being seen as mediocre. You think if you don't try all the way, then you can protect your potential. But that protection? It's costing you progress. You don't need more potential. You need follow-through, even messy, even average, even disappointing. Because nothing builds trust with yourself like finishing things, especially when the high wears off and it's just you, your discipline, and the discomfort of done. Another reason you might not be finishing? You're overcommitted to the version of you who can do everything. You start 5 projects, sign up for 10 goals, say yes to every new idea, and now you're drowning. Not because you're incapable, but because you're lying about your capacity. And the worst part? Every time you abandon something, a little part of you starts to believe you can't be trusted, that your follow-through isn't real. And that self-doubt? That's what makes starting even harder next time. So now you're not just unproductive. You're stuck in a loop of trying to prove to yourself that this time will be different, while repeating the exact same patterns. So how do you break the cycle? First, get brutally honest about why you start things in the first place. Are you chasing a result or avoiding a feeling? Do you actually care about the outcome? Or are you addicted to the image of being productive? Because finishing requires purpose. It requires clarity. And if you don't know why it matters to you, you're going to bail the second it stops being fun. Second, cut your list in half, and then cut it again. Not because you can't do hard things, but because you're not doing any things if your plate's overflowing with ego-driven commitments. Pick one thing, finish it. Not because it's perfect, not because it'll go viral, just because it's the one thing you said you'd do. That's the muscle you're building now, the finish line muscle. Third, get comfortable with boredom. Finishing isn't glamorous. It's not motivational. It's not always fulfilling. Sometimes it's just showing up, even when it's dull, inconvenient, or uncomfortable. That's where most people quit. Not because they can't, but because they don't want to feel what's required to cross the line. But you know what builds confidence? Not hype. Not planning, completion. Following something through when no one's clapping, when it's inconvenient, when it's awkward. That's what separates the person who dreams from the person who delivers. So if you're stuck in a loop of starting and never finishing, stop romanticizing beginnings. Stop chasing momentum. Stop quitting when the shine wears off. Start seeing the finish line as a decision, not a reward. Here's your challenge. Pick one thing, just one, that you've been avoiding. Finish it. Not perfectly, not dramatically. Just get it done. And then sit with the feeling that comes after. Not the high, but the grounded pride of following through. Let me ask you something most people won't. Who are you when you finish? No, seriously. What happens to your identity after the project is done? After the book is written, the launch is over, the goal is checked off? Most people never think about that. They build their sense of purpose around pursuit, not completion. So when something's finished, They don't feel satisfied. They feel lost, directionless, unanchored. Because now what? Now who are you? That's why so many people live in a loop of half-finished projects and constant reinvention. Because as long as something's still in progress, it gives you something to chase. A purpose, a story, a sense of forward motion. But finishing something? That's scary, because now it's real. Now you have to own it. Now you have to sit with what it didn't give you. And if you've tied your self-worth to what you're working on, not who you are without the work, you'll always self-sabotage at the finish line. You'll find reasons to delay. You'll wait for it to be better, cleaner, more polished. You'll tell yourself you're not ready. But deep down, you're not scared it won't work. You're scared it will. And then you'll have to figure out who you are without the project to hide behind. Let's take it even further. Some people don't finish because they're addicted to the identity of being in progress. It becomes a shield, a way to stay in motion without ever being fully accountable for the result. As long as you're working on it, people can't judge it. As long as it's coming soon, it's still full of potential. But the second you finish, you open yourself up to feedback, to silence, to failure, to whatever comes next. And if you don't have a strong sense of self underneath all your ambition, that space after done can feel terrifying. So here's the real work. Learn how to finish things without letting them define you. Build the thing, share the thing, launch the thing. And then, let it go. Don't chase validation. Don't over-identify with the outcome. Finish because you said you would. Not because finishing is going to save you, because spoiler alert, it won't. It won't fill the void. It won't finally make you feel enough. It won't heal your relationship with yourself. That work starts when the project ends. And when you stop needing every goal to prove something about your worth, something wild happens. You actually start finishing more. Because you're no longer afraid of what it says about you. You're just doing the work, closing the loop, moving on. Free, clear, focused. Because your identity isn't built on what you're building. It's built on how you show up for it. If you could relate to this, follow along for the journey because we're just getting started.